I've almost lost everyone in my life. Not because I lied, but because I was too honest. And if you've ever said the phrase, "I'm just being honest," this video is about you. Quick check-in before we go any further. You might be here because the algorithm dropped this on your feed, and not because you asked for it. If you're not in the mood for having how you think gently questioned, or to sit with something uncomfortably for a few minutes, it's completely fine to just scroll past now. No hooks, no tricks, just consent. But you're cool if you stayed. My name's Siege. I'll be talking about identity, alignment, and the quiet ways we lie to ourselves without realizing it. At least for this and the next 7 videos. These aren't opinions, these are frameworks, built from mistakes I've paid for personally. Everything I build, games, tools, long-term projects, lives under Sovereign Systemica. You'll find more about that later, but for right now, that looks like a card game called Dungeon Hunters, and a few other things that I'll share as they're ready. No pressure, it's there if you're curious. Alright, let's talk about honesty, and why most people misunderstand it. The Honesty Fallacy. Honesty is supposed to set you free. But here's the part nobody tells you. Honesty, when misunderstood and misapplied, doesn't liberate people. It destabilizes them. Most people think honesty is a binary. You're either honest or you're fake. Too much honesty? I'm just being real. Too little honesty? That's manipulation. That framing is wrong. Honesty without calibration is destabilizing. And dishonesty without conscience is unethical. And most of us are oscillating wildly between the two. Let's start with the first failure of too little honesty. Lying to preserve comfort, yours or theirs, is still a lie. Withholding truth to avoid consequences is not kindness. It's fear dressed up as empathy. That kind of dishonesty doesn't explode relationships. It rots them slowly and quietly. Until there's nothing left one day but confusion. And a sentence that no one believes anymore. I didn't think it mattered. Failure 2. Too much honesty. I'm not saying that I've never lied in my life. I've definitely committed failure 1 before. I think every human has. But failure 2 was probably the bigger lesson for me. Too much honesty being destabilizing. This is the part nobody likes hearing. Brutal honesty is not virtuous. It's unregulated truth, dumped without regard for timing, context, or capacity. Truth has weight. When you drop it on someone who isn't braced for it, you don't free them, you fracture them. I know this because I lived it. I used to pride myself on being radically honest, and still quite do. And I still value it highly. But radical honesty is no filter, no softening, no social cushioning. I called it integrity, but what it actually was emotional illiteracy. I told people the truth they didn't ask for. At times, they couldn't process. In ways that often served my relief, not their growth. And I paid for it. I lost friends. Pretty much all but one, until 2 of the 5 that I had kind of came back later, but nowhere near the same level of camaraderie that we had shared before. I lost friends not because I lied, but because I didn't know how to tell the truth without burning the room down. Everything changed when I encountered Dr. Paul Ekman's work. Sadly, he passed away on November 17th, 2025, at 91. I owe a lot to him, and I wish I had gotten to thank him in person. But here's what he taught me. Honesty is not a moral trophy. Ekman repeatedly reframed altruism as the intent and deception as the vehicle, without pretending that the vehicle is automatically evil. The intent is what determines the alignment. Like, doctors don't tell a panicking patient, "You're going to die," even if they suspect it. Ideally, they stabilize them first, at least if they have decent bedside manners. He treated honesty as a signal system, biological, emotional, and contextual. Truth isn't just what you say, it's when, why, and how. A truth spoken just to relieve your pressure can still be dishonest, because it ignores a shared system you're speaking into. And likely, if you do this, it's because of the missing axis, self-honesty. Here's the part most people miss. We are rarely honest with ourselves. We confuse compulsion with authenticity. We confuse emotional discharge with truth-telling. We confuse "I feel this" with "this must be said." But real honesty starts before speech. It starts with alignment. Aligned honesty asks 4 questions before a word ever leaves your mouth. Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this timed for growth? Am I willing to carry the consequences? If you skip those questions, you're probably not being honest. you're being reckless. Honesty is not a confession. Honesty is not bluntness. Honesty is not emotional vomiting in the name of being real. Honesty is truth in service of coherence within yourself and between people. I have a quote that's relatively unattributed that oftentimes gets lumped in with Marcus Aurelius. The most honorable way to live is to be exactly who you say you are. If you can get that right within yourself, you're most likely going to get it right when you meet other people. Too little honesty rots relationships. Too much honesty explodes them.
One thing I missed, and I need to say it really clearly. Yes, omission can be a lie. And yes, sometimes lies can be good. Because the moral question isn't, did you say the truth? The moral question is, were you aligned with care, responsibility, and reality? Or were you managing yourself at someone else's expense? That's why honesty can be bad and deception can be good. Sometimes a lie is compassion. Sometimes honesty is cruelty. Omission to avoid accountability, unethical. Omission to prevent harm, to stabilize, or respect privacy, often ethical. This video's goal is not to teach you right and wrong, but it is to point out the honesty fallacy. Alignment is what keeps truth from becoming a weapon. If this unsettled you, good. We're not stopping here. But it does mean it reached the part of you that matters. And now for the only quote that I've ever really felt comfortable attributing to myself. Variations have been said before, but this one is exactly mine. Be better than who you were yesterday. Accept who you are today. Be who you dream to be tomorrow. Ask questions, love yourself, be good to each other. I'll see you in the next one, which, I kid you not, is about the soul. Bye.